Hi Year 9 and welcome back to part 2 of today's poetry quiz. So far you will have completed rounds 1, 2 and 3. So now we're on to the final 2 rounds. That is 4 and 5. So number 4 we're going to be looking at poetic methods. So we'll be looking at what techniques and devices do our poets use and can we identify them. And number 5 is a bit of a miscellaneous round. It's going to ask you a whole range of different questions linked to the background of our poems. Okay, when we're ready then, we'll make a start. We're on to round 4. Okay, this one is methods, or if we like, devices. So you could name it. It might be a simile, a metaphor, personification, but there might be lots of other poetic methods that we've explored as well. Okay, number 1, what device is this? Strung out like bunting. In fact, this is a bonus question too, so if you can name the poem and the poet as well, you'll get an extra point. Strung out like bunting. What method is used? Okay, and one of them legs it up the road. I'm interested in the choice of language here. And one of them legs it up the road. We said this was a word for everyday language. What method? Okay, number 3. Spools of suffering set out in ordered rows. What method? Number 4. Released a songbird from its cage. Number 5. Sudden, successive flights of bullets streak the silence. Listen to how it sounds when read aloud. What method has been used? Okay. Every round as it rips through his life. Look at the words that have been underlined. What method? King, honour, human dignity, etc. What method has been used? Mad gusts tugging on the wire. What method? Half a league, half a league, half a league, onwards. What method has been used? Okay, before we go to the answers then, let's go back and quickly whip through those ones again. Okay, so number 1 was strung out like bunting. Okay. Number 2, one of them legs it up the road. Number 3, spools of suffering set out. Number 4, released a songbird from its cage. Number 5, sudden successive flights of bullets streak the silence. Number 6, every round as it rips through his life. Number 7, king, honour, human dignity, etc. Number 8, mad gusts tugging on the wire. Number 9, half a league, half a league, half a league onwards. Okay, get ready to mark your answers. Okay, the answers were number 1. This was a simile taken from the poem Kamikaze by Beatrice Garland. Well done if you got the bonus point. Number 2, the answer was colloquial language, that everyday language. Number 3, it was a metaphor. Number 4, you could have had a few answers here. The bird being released from its cage, we may have referred to as a symbol or symbolism. But more precisely, you may have had ornithological imagery, the imagery of birds, which represents a wider idea, in this case, symbolic of freedom. Number 5, well done if you got that this was sibilance, a repetition of the S sound. Number 6, alliteration, repetition of the R sound. Number 7, this was a list, so you may have had listing or cataloguing. Number 8 was an example of personification, given human characteristics to emphasise the danger and threat of the cold weather. And number 9, the answer was anaphora, that repeated phrase at the beginning of successive sentences. Okay, a tough round that one, so give yourself a mark out of, well, it's out of 9, but plus the bonus there was out of 10. And we're ready then for our final round. This one is a bit miscellaneous. It's got a whole combination of different questions, some easy, some quite tricky. When we're ready, we'll make a start. So number 1, I would like to know what war did the poem Charge of the Light Brigade happen during? And there's a bonus point attached if you can name the battle too. Which war? Which battle? Off you go. Number 2, can you list 3 facts, 3 things you know about Wilfred Owen and or his life? Okay, which poet in our anthology is currently our poet laureate? And there's a bonus point too here. Which other poets in our anthology have also held this title? Okay, next up. What does PTSD stand for? We've mentioned this in several of our poems, so what do those letters stand for? Okay, next up, in the poem Poppies, Weir uses words associated with a particular art form or one of her hobbies to create an unusual description of grief. So she pairs up that language of the mother and of war with something else to create these interesting descriptions. What was it? Okay, next. Can you name as many parts of the Kamikaze Oath as you can? That's a tricky one. What was the Kamikaze Oath and what did it say? Okay, so I'm very quickly going to go back through each of those. Round 5, number 1, that was the charge of a light brigade. Which battle? Number 2, that was 3 facts about Wilfred Owen and his life. Number 3, poet laureate. Who is it currently? Bonus if you can name other poets in the anthology that also held the title. Number 4, PTSD, what does it stand for? Number 5, in Poppies, which words associated with a particular art form were used to create unusual descriptions of grief? And finally then, as many parts of the Kamikaze Oath as you can remember. And get ready to mark. So the answers to this round were number 1, the Crimean War, and 2, for that bonus point, it was the Battle of Balaclava. Number 2, well, there's many things we could say about Wilfred Owen here, so I'm not going to go through them all, but specifically he was a soldier who fought in World War I. We know he died really tragically just before the end of the First World War. He is Britain's most famous war poet. We know he also suffered PTSD when he returned from war, and he's also inspired many other war poets as well, including ones in our anthology, such as Ted Hughes and Jane Weir. Number 3, our poet laureate is Simon Armitage. He's been in place since 2019, but Carol Ann Duffy and Lord Tennyson have both held the role in the past. Number 3, PTSD was post-traumatic stress disorder. Number 4, Jane Weir, influenced by the language of textile making, textile design, felt making specifically. Number 5, okay, this was the Kamikaze Oath. Okay, well done if you managed to get any of those. Give yourself a mark there out of 7. Okay, so you have a total score. It should be out of around 40. Give yourself a mark and determine the winner. If, for any reason, we have 2 teams here with the same score or 2 individuals with the same score, I have a tiebreaker question for you. Which device means a line of poetry that runs on from one line or stanza to the next. So you might wish to pause the video here. Fantastic. The answer to that was enjambment.